everybody, Ramey here, and today in this video I'm going to do a very high level introduction discussion on games for learning. This is very high level. Hopefully by this point you've watched my Why Are Games Popular video about like esports gaming and kind of what's happening. If you haven't, go watch that so you can get a feel for why I'm even doing a video like this, like why discuss games for learning, because that's a good intro to this. All right, so first of all, when we talk about games for learning, I think the first thing that my generation and up, probably like anyone that's like 25 and up, thinks about when we talk about games for learning is the picture you see on the screen here, which is a simple math game, with like some fruit shapes or something where you're like adding and subtracting and like very simple, like basically flashcards. When I say games for learning, that's totally not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, really in-depth learning. And these are part of that, but I'm thinking like problem solving and like real world, like solving real world problems and learning like real skills when I'm talking about games for learning. Just in this example, what I have on the screen here, we talk about, I say games for learning. Some people think of this like flashcard. I'm thinking of like someone designing levels in a Super Mario Brother game, like actually constructing, doing like the physics of it and determining like, well, how high can he jump and how high can we make this and what becomes real, what becomes impossible. So I'm thinking about all kinds of different things when I'm talking about this. And I'm also thinking about things like virtual reality and augmented reality, So I'm thinking about games for learning. I'm thinking about all these different really cool things. So why games for learning? Why bother games for learning? And this goes back to my Why Are Games Popular video, but, why are we even talking about this? Motivation is a huge factor. Kids play games, adults play games because they want to entertain themselves. This motivation, boredom, excitement. It meets their needs. And then in the classroom, why for learning? Because we can we can achieve things like achievement. There's all kinds of ways to show reward and achievement. And that's why they're used at places like work and school. So, gaming for learning. The one thing I love to reiterate whenever I talk about this topic is any game or simulation can be used for learning as long as it fulfills a learning objective. What that means is that you don't have to use if I'm talking about like using a game for learning, I don't need to sit there and type in like educational games and like use one of those. That completely limits my options. When I say games for learning, I'm talking about maybe I'm using like World of Warcraft or League of Legends or Call of Duty or something. I mean, it doesn't need to be this violent, like exciting game kids are playing, but I want it to be something that there's an educational value to it that I can pull from. By using a fun, exciting game, I'm meeting some learning objective. And one of the reasons I like to do that, well, a few of the reasons I like to pull these fun, exciting games that kids are already playing. One, they're already playing it, they're familiar with it. B, that game probably had like a $200 million budget versus like that intro math flashcard game that probably had like a $0 budget that some developer put together in a few hours. Huge difference in quality. Not that other game can't teach, but kids are much more excited to go in and play Minecraft than going and playing a math flashcard game. So you got to think about that when you're thinking about games for learning. One term that comes up a lot when I talk about games for learning is the term gamification. So just so you kind of know what that means, I'm not talking about that. This is very high level, but just because it's so common in education to talk about gamification, gamification simply means adding game elements to something that is not a game. What does that mean? That means like if I'm doing something grades are a form of gamification. They're adding a game-like element, achievement, to school. That's a form of gamification. Adding game-like elements to a non-game setting. So anything in class, having achievements, having badges, calling the kids and students heroes, stuff like that, all gamification elements. All right, so in the classroom, all kinds of different examples, things that kids are doing today, doing all kinds of stuff. And since this is high level, I'm not getting there. I'm going to have other videos that talk about this. But, things that they're doing, so there are websites dedicated to kids gaming in the classroom, like PBS and stuff like that. But there are really cool games out there that kids are using at home for fun too, like Minecraft, like Super Mario Maker. They're playing esports. They are, using virtual reality and augmented reality in schools. Esports is becoming so popular. See my popularity video for that. In the workplace, we're doing things like all kinds of different simulators, especially in the military. They have the biggest budget for things like that. So they're doing the most high-end simulations in the military. And what's funny is I say they have a big budget for it. Those simulations save so much money because the military can't run they can't go up and just fly planes whenever they want to. That costs a lot of money in fuel and planes. They develop a simulation that allows them to test a lot of new features out and work with teams and do things. So the military, and then we have corporations that are learning that if they invest money into training, especially like some things that employees really like different kinds of simulations and games, that they can actually save money as well. So lots of things being done in this area. Okay, so very high level when I'm talking about games for learning is game design. So game design, I get to, what are the theories behind game design? All the different theories I have listed here are different theories, like information theory, probability, strategy, HCI, human-computer interaction theories, complexity, instructional design, user interface design, user experience design, multimedia. Many, many, many different theories go into designing games. It's not just like I sit down and design a game. I have to learn about games and learn why I'm going to do it. What kind of design goes into this? And then when I get into game development, it goes from really simple to extremely the highest levels of programming really quick. We have game engines like Unity. Unity is one of the most popular game engines used to make all kinds of very popular games, but it can get really hard to use really fast. So non-programmers will use more like drag and drop software. They might even use Minecraft to develop games. They might use something like you can develop games in all kinds of different games. Like games have creative modes now that allow you to create your own game within them, like Super Mario Maker, which is one of my favorite ones. And one of the things I like to mention when I talk about game development is that many games and simulations fail because of poor planning, poor design, or poor development, or a combination of all three. So that's why when I go to that design, and I know this is really high level, and I'm just hitting all these, I'm hitting topics that I could teach a whole class on. I could teach a whole class on just game design, just game development. I could teach a whole class on just Unity that I'm mentioning here. So extremely high level, but I just want you to kind of get a glimpse of what games for learning even means. Thank you.